Hello, family. Enjoy this relaxing moment with Surly Tales. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. It means the world to us. Also, share this video with your friends and loved ones, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. The sun had barely kissed the rooftops of Enugu's bustling Ogbeat main market, yet the streets were already alive with movement. Traders arranged their goods, hawkers called out their wares, and the scent of freshly baked bread mingled with the thick aroma of frying akara from a nearby stall. In the midst of this organized chaos, Chinelo adjusted the straps of her leather handbag and hurried toward her boutique, Chi Luxe Styles. She had learned long ago that success in business wasn't just about having the best products. It was about being present, alert, and always a step ahead of the competition. Her shop was one of the most popular in the area, known for its elegant women's fashion, dresses, handbags, shoes, and accessories that blended African vibrance with Western trends. She had built this business from the ground up, starting with a small roadside stall before expanding into a full-fledged boutique. As she approached the shop, she spotted her security guard, Musa, already standing by the entrance. He was a tall, lanky man with tribal marks on his cheeks, always armed with a wooden baton he never really used but carried as a symbol of authority. "Good morning, madam," Musa greeted, opening the door for her. "Morning, Musa. How was the night?" "Quiet, no wahala." He paused, then added, "But I noticed something strange, madam. One woman came here yesterday evening, just before we closed. She didn't buy anything, just kept looking around like she was searching for something." Chinelo frowned. "Did she say anything to you?" "No, but she was asking plenty of questions about how busy we are and what kind of customers we get." A mild unease settled in her stomach, but she brushed it off. It wasn't unusual for people to be curious, especially about a thriving business. The morning hustle. Inside the boutique, her two shop assistants, Tolu and Blessing, were already unpacking new arrivals from Lagos. Chinelo smiled in satisfaction as she ran her fingers over the neatly arranged mannequins dressed in colorful gowns. "Good morning, ladies," she greeted. "Good morning, madam," they chorused, beaming. "Today we have a lot of work. The end-of-month rush is coming, and customers will be flooding in. I need both of you to be extra sharp today, no dulling." "Yes, ma." Tolu responded with enthusiasm. Blessing nodded, already arranging the cash counter where the POS machine sat, an essential part of the business, considering that most of her customers preferred cashless payments. Chinelo checked her phone and saw a message from her supplier about another batch of goods arriving next week. Everything seemed to be in order. Or so she thought. An unfamiliar face. Around noon, the boutique was in full swing. Customers browsed through the racks, some trying on clothes, others negotiating prices. The POS machine beeped continuously as payments were made. Then she walked in. A tall, elegant woman in a navy blue dress and expensive-looking heels. She exuded confidence, the kind that made people step aside when she walked past. Chinelo immediately noticed her. She wasn't one of their regulars. "Good afternoon, madam. Welcome to Chi Luxe Styles," Tolu greeted. The woman smiled, her red lipstick standing out against her dark complexion. "Thank you. I'm looking for something classy, maybe an evening gown. We have a variety of styles. Would you like to see our latest collection?" Chinelo asked, stepping forward. "Yes, please. But I'd like to take my time." The woman walked around leisurely, touching the fabrics, asking questions about different designs. Her interest seemed genuine, but something about her was off. She wasn't making a decision, just lingering. Then, something odd happened. Tolu, who had been manning the cash register, suddenly got distracted by a customer outside arguing over a delivery. She stepped out briefly, leaving the POS machine unattended for just a few seconds. When she returned, everything seemed normal. Or so they thought. Closing time reflections. By evening, Chinelo was exhausted but satisfied. Sales had been good, and she was already thinking about the next day's strategy. "Let's close up," she instructed her staff, taking a final look at the shop. As Blessing was locking the shelves, she suddenly turned to Chinelo. "Madam, Do you remember that woman that came earlier? Yes. What about her? She didn't buy anything, but she spent a long time around the counter. I thought she was just checking the handbags, but she was touching the POS machine too. Chinelo's stomach clenched. You mean she was holding it? Yes, but she put it back. I didn't think anything of it then. A strange chill ran down Chinelo's spine, but she shook it off. Maybe she was overthinking things. After all, what could possibly go wrong? She was about to find out. A busy shopping day. The sun hung lazily in the sky, casting long shadows over the city as Enugu buzzed with its usual rhythm. At Chi Lux Styles, business was booming. The boutique was a hive of activity. Customers moving from rack to rack, hands grazing expensive fabrics, voices rising and falling in hurried negotiations. Chinelo had barely had a moment to breathe since opening the shop. It was the kind of day she loved. Sales were rolling in, customers were smiling, and the cash register was ringing. Her boutique had built a solid reputation, and as payday approached, women flocked in to spoil themselves with something new. It was always like this at the end of the month. Money flowed, transactions piled up, and the POS machine worked nonstop. Musa, the security guard, stood near the door, nodding respectfully as customers came and went. Tolu and Blessing darted between the racks, handling customers and wrapping up purchases. Chinelo, standing behind the counter, smiled as she processed another transaction. The beep of the POS machine filled the air as a customer entered her PIN. Transaction approved. Thank you, madam, Chinelo said, handing the customer her bag. She barely noticed the woman who had just entered the store. The same woman from yesterday. Tamara's move. Dressed in a fitted red gown, the woman, Amara, strolled into the boutique, her sharp eyes sweeping across the shop. She carried an air of confidence, the kind that made people step aside as she moved. This time, she wasn't alone. Behind her, a man dressed in a simple white kaftan followed closely, pretending to browse. He was Whale, a seasoned scammer and expert in POS machine manipulation. Good afternoon, madam, Amara greeted, her voice smooth and deliberate. Chinelo, busy with a customer, barely looked up. Good afternoon. Welcome back. Have you finally found what you're looking for? I think so, Amara said, flashing a smile. I saw a dress yesterday that I just can't stop thinking about. Do you still have it? Which one? Tolu asked, stepping forward. The navy blue gown with the lace details. Tolu led her to the rack, and Amara began examining the dress, taking her time, running her fingers over the fabric, pretending to be unsure. I love it, she said, then sighed dramatically. But I need to try it on. Chinelo, distracted with another sale, nodded absent-mindedly. Go ahead. The fitting room is at the back. Amara picked up the dress and made her way toward the changing area. Whale moved in. The sleight of hand. With Amara in the fitting room, Whale took his chance. He walked casually toward the counter, pretending to be on a phone call. His eyes darted toward the POS machine, which sat conveniently close to the edge of the counter. Tolu, busy helping another customer, had momentarily turned her back. In one swift, practiced movement, Whale reached into his pocket and pulled out an identical POS terminal, one that looked exactly like Chinelo's but was programmed to reroute funds to the syndicate's account. He placed it on the counter, his fingers moving deftly as he swapped the real POS with the fake one. It took less than 5 seconds. By the time Tolu turned around, Whale had stepped back, still pretending to be on his phone. My dear, he suddenly said loudly, as if responding to someone on the other end of the line. I'm coming a beg. I just check something here. And with that he walked out. A few seconds later, Amara emerged from the fitting room, holding the dress. I've decided to take it, she announced, smiling sweetly. Chinelo, pleased to finally make a sale from this particular customer, processed the transaction. She handed Amara the fake POS machine, not realizing the switch. Amara entered her card, typed in her PIN, and after a brief pause, the screen displayed. Transaction approved. Money was deducted from her account, but not into Chinelo's. Thank you, madam, Amara said, flashing one last smile before walking out. The trap was set. The first signs of trouble. The rest of the evening passed without incident. More customers came in, more sales were made. It wasn't until the next morning that the first complaints started rolling in. Chinelo was arranging a new batch of handbags when her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. It was one of her regular customers, Ngozi. "Good morning, my dear," Chinelo answered cheerfully. "Good morning, Chinelo," Ngozi's voice sounded strained. "Please, I just checked my account now, and I was debited twice for the dress I bought yesterday." Chinelo frowned. "Twice? Are you sure?" "Yes. The same amount was deducted 2 times, but I only got 1 debit alert at the shop. Please check your records." "All right, let me check. I'll call you back." Chinelo ended the call, concern creeping in. Before she could process it, another customer called. Then another. And another. Each one had the same complaint: money deducted multiple times, or worse, transactions showing successful on their end but never reflecting in Chi Lux Style's account. Heart pounding, Chinelo grabbed the POS machine and quickly went through the transaction history. Something was wrong. The device showed that every single payment made after a certain point the previous day was not credited to her account. It was as if the money had disappeared. She looked up at Blessing, panic creeping into her voice. "Blessing, check the business account now. How much was credited yesterday?" Blessing opened the banking app and gasped. "Madam, the account balance is the same as yesterday morning. None of the transactions from yesterday reflected." Cold dread gripped Chinelo. Something was very, very wrong. The realization. Musa, noticing the panic, stepped forward. "Madam, what is happening?" "I don't know," Chinelo muttered, pacing the boutique. "Customers are calling. Money was debited from their accounts, but I haven't received a single kobo." She turned sharply to her staff. "Did anyone tamper with the POS machine?" Blessing shook her head. "No, madam." Tolu, however, hesitated. "Wait," Tolu said slowly. "That woman from yesterday, Adamma. She was near the counter for a long time. And that man that came in too, he was standing close to the POS before he left." The realization hit Chinelo like a brick wall. She grabbed the POS machine, examining it closely. And then she saw it. The serial number on the device was not the same as the one she had been using for years. This was not her POS machine. Her stomach lurched. It had been swapped. And just like that, all the money from yesterday's sales had vanished into thin air. She had been scammed. Her business was in serious trouble. And the nightmare was only beginning. Mounting complaints. The boutique was unusually quiet for a Friday morning. There was no usual rush of customers picking out new outfits for the weekend, no happy chatter of shoppers bargaining for a discount. Instead, there was a heavy tension hanging in the air as Chinelo sat behind the counter, scrolling through an endless stream of angry messages on her phone. More complaints were coming in. More customers were furious. "Madam, I was debited 3 times yesterday. My bank is saying the money was transferred successfully. Why haven't you received it?" "Madam, I need my money back. Oh. This is fraud." It was chaos. Chinelo could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on her chest. Her fingers trembled as she tried to reply to each message, assuring customers that she was investigating the issue. But deep down, fear clawed at her heart. Her boutique was built on trust. Her customers relied on her. But now, that trust was being ripped apart. She clenched her fists. This can't be happening. She looked up at Blessing and Tolu, who stood nearby, nervous and uncertain. "We need to figure this out," Chinelo said, trying to keep her voice steady. "We need to get to the bottom of this, fast." Confrontation at the bank. Chinelo wasted no time. She grabbed the POS machine, the fake one that had been swapped, and stormed out of the shop. Musa, ever vigilant, saw her troubled expression and quickly followed. "Madam, you need help?" "I need answers, Musa. I have to go to the bank." She hailed a Kiki Napep tricycle, and within minutes, she was at the nearest branch of First Trust Bank, the institution that handled her business transactions. The air conditioning inside the bank did little to cool her rising anxiety. She walked straight to the customer service desk. "Good morning, madam. How may we help you?" the teller greeted politely. Chinelo placed the POS machine on the counter with a loud thud. "Something is wrong with my account. All my sales from yesterday have disappeared." The teller blinked in surprise. Disappeared? Yes. Chinelo was barely holding herself together. Customers paid through my POS, but the money never entered my account. They were debited, but I wasn't credited. The teller frowned. That's unusual. Let me check your transaction history. As the teller typed furiously on her keyboard, Chinelo tapped her fingers impatiently on the counter. Finally, the teller looked up. Madam, according to our records, your last successful POS transaction was 2 days ago. Chinelo's breath caught in her throat. That's impossible. I processed thousands of naira in payments yesterday. The teller shook her head. I'm sorry, but we have no record of those transactions. The words felt like a punch to Chinelo's stomach. The syndicate's next move. At that very moment, across the city, in a dingy apartment filled with multiple laptop screens and tangled wires, Sewell, the leader of the syndicate, sat in a chair, watching numbers on a screen. She's just realizing now, he murmured with a smirk. Amara, the woman who had distracted Chinelo in the shop, stood nearby, arms crossed. She'll report it to the bank. And the bank won't find anything, Sewell said, stretching lazily. By the time they even suspect fraud, the money would have already been transferred out of the country. Well, the man who had swapped the POS machine chuckled. One more business taken down. This job was almost too easy. They had done this many times before. Find a thriving business. Swap the POS. Drain the funds. Disappear. And now Chi Lux Styles was their latest victim. Police involvement. After an exhausting, fruitless argument with the bank staff, Chinelo stormed out of the bank. Musa, who had been waiting outside, saw her troubled expression. Madam, what did they say? They said there's no record of my transactions, Chinelo said, her voice shaking. It's like the money never existed. Musa frowned. Madam, this is fraud. We need to go to the police. The idea of reporting to the police felt like a long shot, but what choice did she have? Within an hour, they arrived at the Enugu State Police Command. The officer at the front desk barely looked up when she explained the situation. POS fraud? He muttered, clearly uninterested. Yes. Chinelo snapped. Someone swapped my POS machine and stole all my sales money. The officer sighed and leaned back in his chair. Madam, this thing happens all the time. These criminals are smart. Once the money enters their account, they move it immediately. It's difficult to track. But you're the police. Chinelo was losing patience. You have to investigate. The officer scratched his head. We'll write a report, but unless you have solid evidence, it will be hard to catch them. Solid evidence. Chinelo's mind raced. There has to be a way to find them. Loss of trust. The days that followed were the worst in Chinelo's business career. Word spread fast. Customers who once trusted her now hesitated before making purchases. Some outright accused her of running a scam. One woman even stormed into the shop, demanding her money back. Madam Chinelo, I trusted you, she shouted. How can you take my money and pretend nothing happened? Chinelo fought back tears. I didn't take your money. Someone swapped my POS machine. That's not my business. I need my refund. And just like that, another customer lost. The damage was worse than just the missing money, it was the reputation of her business. If people stopped trusting her, she might as well shut down. Personal breakdown. That night, Chinelo sat in her small apartment, staring blankly at the wall. She had worked for years to build this business. She had sacrificed everything. And in just one day, it was all crumbling. Tolu and Blessing had gone home, and Musa had promised to keep watch outside. But even with all the support, she had never felt so alone. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. The voice on the other end was groggy with sleep. Hello. Emeka, Chinelo whispered, her voice breaking. Her cousin, Emeka, was a software engineer, a tech guru who understood cybercrime better than anyone she knew. Chinelo, he sounded instantly alert. What happened? She took a deep breath. I need your help. Someone hacked my business. There was a long pause. Then Emeka said, I'll be there first thing in the morning. For the first time that day, Chinelo felt a glimmer of hope. She wasn't going to let these criminals win. She was going to fight back. The hunt for the syndicate was about to begin. Chinelo's resolve. The city was still shrouded in the quiet of early morning when Emeka arrived at Chinelo's apartment. He stepped inside and took one look at his cousin, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep, her body stiff with tension, and sighed. "You look like you haven't slept in days," he said, dropping his laptop bag on the small dining table. "I haven't," Chinelo admitted. "Emeka, I'm in trouble. If we don't figure this out, my business is finished." Emeka nodded, pulling out his laptop. "Tell me everything. From the beginning." Chinelo recounted the entire ordeal. The woman who had loitered in her shop, the busy shopping day, the POS machine swap, and the sudden realization that all her transactions had been diverted elsewhere. By the time she was done, Emeka's face had darkened. "This isn't an ordinary scam," he said grimly. "This is a syndicate. They're organized and they've done this before. Can we trace them?" Emeka leaned forward, fingers already flying across his keyboard. "Maybe. If we act fast." Musa's revelation. As Emeka worked, a knock sounded at the door. It was Musa, the ever-reliable security guard. He had insisted on staying alert outside Chinelo's boutique in case anything suspicious happened. "Madam, I remembered something," he said the moment he stepped in. "That woman, Adamma, the one who distracted you in the shop. She didn't come alone." Chinelo frowned. "Yes, she was with a man. But we didn't pay attention to him." "Exactly," Musa said. "I remember his face. And yesterday, I saw him again at a betting shop not too far from the market." Emeka's eyes gleamed with interest. "That's good. We might have a lead." Musa nodded. "I can take you there." Tracking the syndicate. They moved quickly. Emeka took his laptop and followed Musa and Chinelo to the betting shop. The shop was one of those noisy establishments with flashing screens displaying live football odds. "Are you sure he's here?" Chinelo whispered. Musa nodded. "He was here yesterday evening." They stepped inside and scanned the room. Then Chinelo saw him. The man who had swapped her POS machine. Her heart pounded. "That's him." Whale was seated at the corner, talking to another man, completely unaware of their presence. Emeka pulled out his phone and whispered, "I'll take a picture. Don't let them notice." He snapped a few shots and quickly stepped out. "We have something," he said. "Now let's find out who this guy is." A dangerous discovery. Back at the apartment, Emeka worked tirelessly. He used an online facial recognition tool and cross-referenced Whale's image with several scam-related reports. Then a hit. "This guy is known," Emeka muttered, clicking on a news article. "He's part of a cybercrime syndicate operating across major Nigerian cities. They specialize in POS fraud." Chinelo's stomach tightened. "What else do we know about them?" she asked. Emeka clicked on another tab, pulling up a list of past victims. "Their strategy is the same," he explained. "They scout a business, distract the owner, swap the POS machine, then route transactions to offshore accounts. By the time the victims realize, the money is long gone. How do we stop them?" Emeka sighed. "We need more proof. The police won't act unless we present them with hard evidence." Chinelo clenched her fists. "Then let's get it." "Risky move." Emeka frowned. "You're not thinking of confronting them, are you?" "Not directly," Chinelo said. "But I have an idea." She took a deep breath. "If they think I'm an easy target, maybe we can set them up." Emeka stared at her like she had gone mad. "You want to trap cybercriminals? Do you know how dangerous that is?" Chinelo exhaled sharply. "I don't have a choice, Emeka. I need my money back. And I need to stop them before they ruin someone else's business." There was silence for a moment. Then Emeka smirked. "You're crazy," he muttered. "But I like it." The plan was simple, but dangerous. Chinelo would act as if she had fallen for their scam, pretending to be desperate and looking for its solutions to recover her lost funds. They would plant information through a fake connection, making it seem like she wanted to join their fraudulent network. It was risky. If the syndicate believed her, she could get close enough to expose them. If they saw through the lie, she would be in serious trouble. "Are you sure about this?" Emeka asked. Chinelo set her jaw. "I'm sure." She was about to walk into the belly of the beast. And she wasn't coming out without a fight. Chinelo's undercover mission. The streets of Enugu pulsed with life as Chinelo walked toward Club Mirage, a popular nightclub known for attracting both the city's elite and its most cunning criminals. Emeka had been hesitant about the plan, but Chinelo was determined. Their research had revealed that Sewell, the leader of the cybercrime syndicate, often met his associates at this club. If Chinelo could get close enough and convince them that she was desperate, and possibly willing to work with them, she might uncover the details she needed to bring them down. She had dressed carefully for the occasion. A sleek black dress and heels, the kind that screamed money and sophistication. If she was going to sell the lie, she needed to look the part. Emeka had planted a hidden recorder inside her handbag, just in case things got ugly. Remember, if anything feels wrong, get out, Emeka had warned her earlier. We're dealing with dangerous people. I'll be fine, she had assured him, though deep down, her heart pounded with nerves. Now, standing at the entrance of the club, she took a deep breath and walked inside. A high-stakes gamble. The club was dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of expensive cologne, alcohol, and cigarette smoke. Loud Afrobeats blasted from speakers as dancers swayed to the rhythm, and the laughter of wealthy businessmen mingled with the occasional clinking of whiskey glasses. Chinelo scanned the room. Then she saw him. Sewell. He was seated in the VIP section, dressed in an expensive white agbada, surrounded by his associates, including Amara and Whale, the very people who had swapped her POS machine. Her stomach tightened, but she forced herself to remain calm. She walked confidently toward the bar and ordered a drink. She needed to make her presence known without appearing too eager. It didn't take long. Sewell's eyes found her almost immediately. And then, just as she had hoped, he sent someone over. The first encounter. A young man with dark sunglasses approached her. "Boss wants to see you," he said simply. Chinelo took a slow sip of her drink, pretending to hesitate. "And who is your boss?" The man smirked. "You already know." She glanced at Sewell's table, where he sat watching her with an amused expression. She exhaled softly. This was it. Slowly, she stood up and followed the man toward the VIP section, walking into the den of wolves. As she approached the table, Amara's eyes narrowed slightly. Whale, on the other hand, looked amused. Well. If it isn't the boutique owner. Chinelo forced a smile. "I hear you people know how to make money disappear." Sewell chuckled, leaning forward. "You have my attention." She sat down carefully, crossing her legs. "Let's not waste time. I know what you did to my business. I also know that the police won't touch you unless they have solid proof." Sewell arched a brow. "And yet you're sitting here with us. That's brave." Chinelo met his gaze without flinching. "I want in." A beat of silence. Then laughter erupted around the table. "Ooh." Amara smirked. "You want to join us?" Chinelo shrugged. "You took my money. You left me with nothing. So, maybe I'd rather be on the winning side." Sewell studied her carefully. "And what exactly do you bring to the table?" Chinelo took a deep breath. "I own a business. I have connections. I can get you access to more high-profile targets, big boutiques, supermarkets, people who won't notice missing money until it's too late." Another silence. Then Sewell leaned back and smiled. "You might just be interesting." Close call. Chinelo had them hooked. But the hardest part was yet to come, getting real proof of their operations. She knew she couldn't push too fast, so she played the role of an eager recruit, listening carefully, nodding at the right moments, and keeping her recorder running. The criminals talked in coded language, but there were enough details for Emeka to analyze later. Everything was going well, until Amara suddenly turned to her and asked, "If you're so desperate to join, let's see what you can do." Chinelo's heart pounded. "What do you mean?" Whale smirked. "We have a small job lined up tonight." "The rest?" Sewell leaned in. "If you want to work with us, you'll help us swap another POS machine." Panic gripped her. She wasn't actually trying to be part of them, just to gather information. But if she refused now, they would know she wasn't genuine. She forced a slow smile. "All right, tell me the target." Turning to law enforcement. That night, Chinelo met Emeka at a hidden spot near her boutique. She was shaking. "They want me to swap a POS machine for another victim," she whispered. Emeka cursed. "That's too risky, Chinelo. We have to end this now." He pulled out his laptop and replayed the recorded conversation from the club. "We have enough evidence," he said. "The voices are clear. They talked about fraud. This is enough to get the police involved." They didn't waste any time. The next morning, they took everything to Inspector Benga, a well-respected officer known for handling cybercrime cases. At first, the inspector seemed doubtful. But then he listened to the recording. And his expression changed. "This is big," he said. "Very big." He stood up, grabbing his radio. "We need to set a trap of our own." Setting the trap. The police came up with a plan. They would allow Chinelo to go ahead with the fake test, but undercover officers would be watching every move. The goal? To catch Sewell and his entire crew in the act. It was risky. If they suspected anything, Chinelo would be in real danger. But she had come too far to back out now. The stage was set. The final showdown was coming. And Chinelo was ready. The final test. The tension in the air was almost unbearable. Chinelo sat in the back seat of a black sedan parked across the street from the Target boutique, her hands gripping her handbag tightly. Hidden inside was a tiny police-issue transmitter, linking her to Inspector Benga and his team, who were stationed nearby in an unmarked van. "This is it," Emeka whispered beside her. "If anything goes wrong, just say the word, and the police will move in." Chinelo swallowed hard. She had come too far to back out now. Her task was simple: swap the POS machine in the boutique, just like the syndicate had done to her. But what Sewell and his gang didn't know was that this swap was a trap. The moment the new machine was activated, the police's cyber unit would track the transactions in real time and intercept the funds before they could be laundered. Chinelo adjusted her dress, took a deep breath, and stepped out of the car. Walking into the fire. The boutique was a mid-sized fashion store, not unlike her own. The owner, a young woman named Adamma, was completely unaware of the setup. Inside, Amara and Whale were already there, pretending to browse. "You're late," Amara said, smirking. Chinelo forced a chuckle. "Had to make sure I wasn't being followed. You know how it is." Whale handed her a small black bag. Inside was the fraudulent POS machine. "Go do your thing," he whispered. Chinelo nodded and walked toward the counter. Adamma was busy with another customer, which gave her the perfect opportunity. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for the boutique's original POS machine. She hesitated. The moment she completed this action, everything would escalate. "Deep breath, Chinelo. You got this." She smoothly swapped the machines. Then turned back to the gang. "It's done," she said. Whale grinned. "Welcome to the family." The sting operation. Outside, Inspector Benga's team was already mobilizing. The cyber unit had intercepted the first transaction attempt, and as soon as the fraudulent machine was activated, they had pinpointed its location. "Move in," the inspector ordered. Within seconds, the sound of screeching tires and blaring sirens filled the air. Sewell, who had been waiting in a nearby car, saw the flashing red and blue lights and immediately realized they had been set up. "Scatter," he shouted. The criminals bolted in different directions. Amara grabbed Chinelo's wrist, her nails digging into her skin. "What did you do?" she hissed. Chinelo yanked herself free just as two police officers tackled Amara to the ground. Whale tried to run but was caught before he could reach the exit. Musa, who had volunteered to help, tripped Sewell as he ran, giving the police enough time to pin him down. Within minutes, the entire syndicate was in handcuffs. Confrontation and confessions. As they were loaded into the police van, Sewell glared at Chinelo. "You think you've won?" he spat. "There are hundreds of people like us. This won't stop anything." Inspector Benga, arms crossed, smirked. "Maybe not. But you're going away for a long time." Chinelo stepped forward, meeting Sewell's gaze without fear. "You stole from me. From hardworking people. And you thought you could keep doing it without consequences?" she said. Sewell laughed bitterly. "We only take from those who don't protect themselves." Chinelo's expression hardened. "That's exactly why I fought back. Recovering the stolen funds." The cyber unit worked quickly, tracing the money that had been stolen from Chinelo and other victims. Although some had already been laundered, they were able to recover a large portion of it, including a significant amount from Chi Lux Styles' missing sales. "You're lucky," Inspector Benga told her. Most businesses never get their money back. Chinelo nodded, relief washing over her. It wasn't just about the money, it was about justice. Rebuilding trust. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Chinelo had to work hard to rebuild trust with her customers. Many had been hesitant to return, worried that her boutique was somehow involved in the fraud. To address this, she launched an awareness campaign, educating other business owners about POS fraud and digital security measures. She installed a biometric verification system for high-value transactions and worked closely with the police to alert other businesses about similar scams. Slowly, her boutique regained its reputation. People started returning. Sales picked up again. And most importantly, she learned a lesson that would stay with her forever. Lessons learned. Sitting in her office one evening, she reflected on everything that had happened. Never let your guard down. Always verify your transactions. Protect your business like your life depends on it, because sometimes it does. As she closed her laptop, her phone buzzed. A message from Emeka. The police just informed me. Sewell and his crew got 15 years in prison. Case closed. Chinelo smiled. For the first time in weeks, she felt at peace. Justice had been served. And Chi Luck Styles would rise again. The end. If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.